Author and screenwriter Delia Ephron was trying her best to handle the loss of her sister and then the death of her husband when she got mail. She talks about love, loss, and more with our Dr. Jon LaPook.
Good girl. Come on, Charlotte.
Author Delia Ephron knows a thing or two about romantic storylines. And lately, she's been living one. If you were to summarize what happened to you over the last few years and pitch it to a movie studio, what do you think the response would be?
I think they would buy it.
And she would know.
Do you think we should meet?
She and her sister Nora co-wrote the 1998 classic rom-com, You've Got Mail.
Meet? Oh my God.
Suddenly, love lands on me. It's so amazing to fall in love, and how lucky that I got to.
But before luck came grief. Delia lost Nora in 2012, and her husband Jerome Cass just 3 years later, both to forms of cancer.
Every time I came home, he wasn't there to schmooze about every single thing in the world. And yet he was everywhere, wasn't he?
Delia coped with her grief by writing about it in a darkly funny 2016 New York Times editorial about disconnecting her late husband's landline.
I absolutely hate Verizon. I spent 4 hours on the phone with them on a recent Saturday morning. I know for sure I was disconnected 3 times.
Soon she got an email from Dr. Peter Rutter, who reminded her they'd gone on a date 54 years earlier, set up by, who else? Nora.
Part of the amazingness of getting that first email was that he said that Nora had set us up. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. It was like she was reaching down to me.
What was it about the Verizon article that made you reach out to Delia?
She was single.
But you had remembered her all these
Oh,
years?
of course. Who forgets an Ephron girl? You are enjoying yourself.
Soon, Peter and Delia were an item. At the same time, at Weill Cornell Medicine, New York Presbyterian, Delia's blood tests were being monitored at regular intervals by Dr. Gail Robos. It was a cautionary measure because of Nora's leukemia.
Every 6 months I would go in to see Dr. Robos, and she would take my blood, and she would say something like, "This is the most boring blood I've seen all day," and send me off.
Dr. Robos is director of Weill Cornell Medicine's leukemia program. Delia's results continued to be boring for 8 years. But then,
in March of 2017, she comes in, she has a blood test, and she was almost getting ready to get up and go. And something flashed on the review of the blood smear. And I went to take a look, and all of a sudden there's acute leukemia.
when you saw that, what was your reaction? Do you remember?
I think I wanted to run away. The shock of this, I gotta tell you, it's a gut punch for us, and it's a gut punch to the patient.
I spoke with Dr. Robos, and she said when she realized that you had leukemia and she needed to tell you that, she wanted to run away.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh. My God.
Delia writes about the diagnosis in her new memoir, Left on 10th.
As she is sitting there, the rest of the results come in. Results that leave no doubt I have leukemia. I don't remember her telling me. I only remember suddenly knowing it.
She's going from feeling fine to this awful news, coming in the hospital, catheter in her arm, chemotherapy. It's absolutely an unbelievable sort of 180 in one's life.
But that 180 was, for Delia and Peter, a reason to take the next step.
Peter and I were having breakfast on Sunday, and I was making French toast. And he suddenly stands up and says, "Will you marry me?" I mean, the sweetest. It was so sweet. And I said yes.
To have and to hold, to love and to cherish.
And we got married in the hospital, in the dining room on the 14th floor, with just a very few friends. And you were there.
Yes, I was there. As Delia's longtime friend, capturing the whole thing on video.
There I had the hospital band on my wrist and the flowers in my other hand.
And the wedding band on
and
the other.
And the wedding band, yeah, exactly. There was just such kind of amazing disconnect. And yet at the same time, it was just very loving.
With her new husband by her side, Delia tackled chemotherapy and then a stem cell transplant. You go to see your transplant doctor, and what does he say to you?
He says, basically, I have a 20% chance of survival. And I said, but we just fell in love. I don't know why I said that, because obviously it was absolutely irrelevant, right? But I guess in my head, I wanted him to know this mattered.
She says love is what kept her going. But the transplant took its toll, and she was having trouble breathing. So she said to Dr. Robos,
please come and see me. And I said, I just want out. I can't take it anymore. And
She was calling in people and asking for that end-of-life conversation. So I was mentally scrambling for what would be a way to handle this.
And she said, this is so brilliant. She said, give me 48 hours, and if I get somewhere, give me another 48. So she gave me hope and an end game in one sentence.
I didn't want her to give up. I thought she'd be okay.
48 hours later, her breathing began to improve. Today, 4 years later, there is no evidence of leukemia on any test. And she is still very much in love.
When something like this happens, where everything fits in some way that is just extraordinary, it just makes you wonder about life.